The Image of Here and Now. The Scrapbooks of Edwin Morgan by Sasha Saben Callaghan. Audio described version. Image 1. Two hands, both with index fingers extended, point to a large strawberry topped with a bitten slab of chocolate and tied in an orange bow. Image 1. A vintage gold brooch with two birds and a ruby and pearl heart. Image 2. An architectural drawing of a triptych. The left and right panels are photographs of Edwin Morgan as a teenager and in his 40s. The middle panel is the cover of a scrapbook. Image 3. Edwin Morgan's handwriting, which says Scrapbook Number 1. Image 4. Looped necklace with clasped gold and ruby hands. Text. Defense of the ephemeral. Over the last year, I've found it increasingly difficult to read. Instead, I've caught myself continuously doom scrolling, seeking out the latest horrors and veering from feeling enraged to despondent. As an antidote, I found the work of Edwin Morgan, the Glasgow poet, translator and educator, to be a point of stability during the pandemic. But rather than his writing, it's Morgan's scrapbooks that have drawn me in. The 16 volumes of textual intervention and collaged images Edwin Morgan began assembling as a young boy, solitary and with a magpie tendency, are a dizzy mix. They're a political, social and erotic history of the mid-20th century, rushing headlong and breathless from the rise of fascism in the early 1930s to the Cold War of the 1960s. They're also a flirtation with Dadaism, a homage to surrealism, and a route map illustrating Morgan's development as a poet. Between the covers of each scrapbook are 3,500 pages of intricately positioned ephemera and found poetry, tracing significant events and cultural change over almost 40 years. Image 1. Double page from scrapbook number 12, with various clippings and collages, including travel, architecture, and pop culture. The composition of the scrapbooks is multifaceted, but they often relate to and correspond with Morgan's writing, and there are recurring themes across the collection. Animals, architecture, religion all make repeated appearances, as do his optimistic view of technology and artificial intelligence, and by contrast his dread of the nuclear arms race. The scrapbooks were assembled through the cut and paste method of collaging, using text and images clipped from newspapers, scientific and nature magazines, academic textbooks, and pages of poetry ripped straight from books. They also incorporate Morgan's own sketches, abstract designs, prose, and his handwritten notes and pagination. To describe the volumes as complex is an understatement. Taking just one example, Scrapbook 9, compiled from 1948 to 1954, consists of 503 clippings, displayed over 320 pages. Image 1. Colour reproduction of a 19th century oil painting. Image 2. 1950s ruble note. Image 3. Newspaper cutting with text. Thought the end of the world had come, next to a photograph of an explosion. Image 4. Photograph of Edwin Morgan on military service in 1943. Image 5. Illustration of a 1950s television set. Edwin Morgan travelled widely to Africa and the Middle East during the Second World War, to Russia and Eastern Europe during the Cold War, to the United States, to New Zealand, to the North Pole. The collages reflect this globe-trotting, combining personal photographs with tickets, stamps, the detritus from numerous travels, charting a journey and exploration between a social history of Scotland and beyond, a personal journey and an act of creation. Images 1 and 2, handwritten 1954 to 1960 on squares of paper. Image 3, text clipping, defense of the ephemeral. Images 4 and 5, black and white photographs of Cliff Richard, late 1950s. Image 6, vintage postage stamp. Image 7, vintage illustration of a footballer. Image 8, text clipping, Fortiana, the white-haired girl. Oh, and a catalogue of homoerotica. Pop stars, footballers, astronauts, and explorers lend a dark glamour and gorgeousness through their distance from us. As a gay man living under the shadow of punitive anti-homosexual laws, the scrapbooks seem to be Edwin Morgan's way of confronting the casual and ingrained homophobia around him. Image 1, cut-up poem from Scrapbook 13. Image 2, Edwin Morgan, written in mirror writing on a yellow marbled background. Inside cover from Scrapbook 11. Influences on Edwin Morgan's work as a collagist come from a wide range of sources, but the beyond reality of surrealism threads through the scrapbooks. The desire of surrealists to find magic and strange beauty in the unexpected and the uncanny, the disregarded and the unconventional, had an obvious resonance for him. Newspaper and magazine cuttings record stories of hauntings, of UFOs and sightings of the Loch Ness Monster and a blue moon over Glasgow. He also includes eerie events from his own life and handwritten accounts of strange coincidences and vivid dreams. Images 1 to 4. Text clippings from newspapers and magazines. Text, selection is also creation. Whilst Edwin Morgan was primarily a poet rather than a visual artist, there are discernible links between his news poems and textual interventions constructed from newspaper headlines. The use of images in the scrapbooks are a foreshadowing of his 1970s instamatic poems, where, as Morgan says, the poem must be presented in such a way as to give a visual picture of this event, whatever it was, as if somebody had been there with an instamatic camera and had just very quickly snapped it. The scrapbooks are the invention of an inquiring, questioning man, eager to use images and words to create new work and construct new worlds. Dadaist Tristan Tzara's description of cut-up logic, "The poem will resemble you," sums them up beautifully. Image 1, collage. Cosmo, detail of a dog wearing a spacesuit. Image 2, Sol Invicta, detail of a boxer with a sun tattoo and gold halo. Yes, these cut and paste jewel boxes of 54,000 images, past lives and fragments of text, and instamatic poems suspended in time, ephemeral babies long dead, starfish washed up on nameless beaches, castles and goddesses, porcupines illuminated by the northern lights or nuclear explosions, connecting threads and themes woven between pages and across decades. Each time I look, I find something new to dazzle and intrigue and tantalize. Yes, Edwin Morgan's writing is beautiful and sensuous, but it's his scrapbooks which move and inspire me and have enabled me to create my own collages as the virus rages. Image 1 to 16. 4 lines of luggage tags, numbered 1 to 16. When Edwin Morgan stopped compiling his treasury in 1967, Scotland was on the brink of huge social change. The world was a very different place, and the schoolboy, living with middle-class Presbyterian parents in Rutherglen, was now a poet and critic, embracing change and exhilarated by risk. The volumes themselves are a brilliant yet problematic legacy. On the one hand, they perform the function of many scrapbooks, both as time capsules of the here and now, providing a snapshot of the past, and as a means of organizing, categorizing, and interpreting history. They're also the story of one man. But beyond that, Edwin Morgan's scrapbooks are caught in a web of constraints. His wish was to see them published, but issues over copyright have prevented this so far. Now, digitalization brings new challenges, as deciding what will be retained, who will do it, and who will have access to the end result is seldom neutral. Image 1. Collage incorporating 19th century anatomical illustrations of lungs and a pregnant belly, flowers, birds, gems, and a scrap of paper saying virus. One of the things which has intrigued me about the scrapbooks is how they conclude with the final volume, number 16, unfinished. What would I like to see? Freedom. The freedom to create a response to those empty pages, to fill in the gaps. Image, doll face. The porcelain head of a doll stands out from a black background. The face is covered in tiny cracks, and the top of the head is broken, revealing Victorian scrap paper and flowers inside. One of the doll's eyes is ringed with pearls. It wears drop earrings and a choker decorated with a gold key. This is an opportunity to give Scrapbook 16 a second life with new interpretations, not only of Edwin Morgan's poetry, but of a rapidly changing world, making sense from cut and paste, just as Edwin Morgan has. Image. Cut up text says make art, collaborate, create, share. Do you feel drawn to the work of Edwin Morgan, to his exploration of identity in the scrapbooks, when for so many years he had to keep his true identity hidden? Maybe you're already an artist, or maybe you've never thought of yourself as one. It doesn't matter, because collage is such an inclusive and accessible way to make wonderful art. So if you're a disabled person, please share your ideas for completing Scrapbook 16. Let's fill those empty pages from 1967 with the strange and beautiful from the present. If you'd like to join us, we welcome you. Just use the hashtag #MoreThanImages, EM100 at Ed Morgan Trust. We can't wait to see your responses. Let's hold hands among the atoms.